As German Vice-Chancellor Robert Habeck landed here on Friday, the global economic order seemed to hold its breath. His visit comes at a pivotal juncture, with the European Union weighing punitive tariffs of up to 48% on Chinese electric vehicles amid allegations of unfair trade practices. How the dramas of this trip unfold could have seismic consequences, shaping not just the future flow of green transport across continents, but defining the very structure of 21st-century geopolitics and finance. At the molten core of this standoff are fundamental questions about the values animating global commerce. The Europeans accuse China of dumping, flooding markets, with products sold at artificially low prices aided by massive state subsidies. Beijing dismisses these charges as protectionist cover for the old powers to stifle the rise of an economic dynamo. The subtext is a clash of economic ideologies, the free market liberalism long championed by the West colliding with China's brand of muscular state capitalism. The stakes could hardly be higher. German industrialists warn the tariffs could cripple a vital export sector already battered by war-driven energy shocks. China, in turn, threatens retaliation against European luxury goods and agriculture. Beneath the wrangling over duties and levies lurks the shadow of something darker, the potential unraveling of the very rules-based system that has governed international commerce since World War II. We could be witnessing the beginning stages of an economic Cold War between the world's two largest markets, laments Zhu Ning, a professor of finance in Shanghai. The dangers of such a schism, to global prosperity and American leadership, are almost too cataclysmic to ponder. Into this high-stakes drama strides Habeck, the German Green politician whose unofficial mandate is finding an off-ramp from the looming trade hostilities. He is no firebrand protectionist, but a self-styled pro-business pragmatist, cautioning that a transatlantic rift with Beijing could imperil the very economic foundations of the German export powerhouse upon which this global controversy ultimately rests. Stalking the corridors of power during his visit, Habeck likely meets more kindred spirits than bellicose foes. While hawkish European voices have grown louder on China amid security tensions and human rights concerns, pragmatists still hold significant sway. French President Emmanuel Macron provided Xi Jinping lavish hospitality just last month. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz remains an apostle of the Wandel-Durchhandelt gospel, the very notion that commerce and engagement can ultimately transform China. Yet as the world awaits clarity on whether Habeck's shuttle diplomacy can cool the trade hostilities, the competing ideological forces at play augur something more tectonic than a mere tariff flap. This is globalization's spiritual crisis laid bare, remarks David Dollar, a trade expert at the Brookings Institution. The clashing visions of how 21st-century economic order should be organized reflect fundamentally different worldviews. On one side stand the custodians of the post-war American-led liberal economic order rule-bound, market-driven systems championing fair competition, open borders, and democratic values. Arrayed against them is the muscular statism of China's authoritarian model, where finance, production, and strategic industry are marshaled by an unflinching one-party state pursuing national supremacy. It was always fanciful to imagine the liberal democracies and Leninist autocracy could exist atop this planet indefinitely as condominium co-tenants. The fissures between their animating civilizational DNA seemed destined to eventually split the global economic architecture asunder. Perhaps this EV tariff drama signals that centrifugal moment when the stresses simply proved too immense for their flawed integration within one system to tenuously limp onward. We may be caught in the gravitational forces of two distinct economic universes drifting permanently apart, contends Kishore Mahbubani of the Asia Research Institute in Singapore. The issue is no longer whether the Chinese system can ultimately be reformed to Western market specifications. That dream is dead. The question is what new hybrid frameworks can be constructed for these divergent planets to continue intersecting peacefully as they travel ineluctably outward on their separate trajectories. It could well be Habeck's unenviable legacy to admit the unbridgeable nature of this ever-widening chasm. Though the German leader's professed goal during this Beijing mission is cooling trade hostilities, perhaps his greater historical role is serenely acknowledging the emerging post-globalization world. A world where the assumptions of the past half-century no longer hold, where the docking of the Chinese and liberal Western economic models into harmonious internationalism is yesterday's quixotic pursuit. In such a brave new cosmos of rival economic universes, the most productive path may lie in clear-eyed delineation and candid demarcation, bounding spheres of influence, writing distinct regimes for the orderly conduct of financial affairs between them. Far from diffusing tensions, Habeck's generational duty may be guiding the world to its fundamental post-unipolar reorientation, nudging humanity away from nostalgic longings for reanimating an economic globalization whose shelf life has plausibly expired. For now, the Vice-Chancellor ventures undaunted into his Beijing parleys, doubtlessly hoping for the lower-stakes accomplishment of averting an EV trade meltdown. But even a masterclass in German incrementalist engineering seems unlikely to reverse the metaforces unspooling around him. The global economic order is remaking itself according foreordained forces, beyond the remit of even its most sage custodians. As Heraclitus reminds, no man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man. Neither is it the same world economic order Habeck hopes to freeze in place. Heed the wise Greek's warning, the economic river currents incurring around us issue not from any familiar spring. We have already stepped into strange and unmapped tributaries whose strange new streams shall carry us on voyages into unknown terra incognita.